Brad, we're doing it, man. We're starting the crow's nest off right. It's 2024. It's summertime. The
Mm,
conference season is in full effect, and it's time to help some people. So glad to be doing this pod with you, brother.
man, back at you, dude.
Right.
We got our nice logos. As y'all can
Mhm.
see, we really went crows here.
That's right.
And I think it's probably important, Adam, for us to talk a little bit about why do we even call it crow's nest, right? And I think if I Google the definition of crow's nest on a ship,
Yep.
it reads a crow's nest is a partially enclosed platform or structure at the top of a ship's mast
Mhm.
that gives that is used as a lookout point. And so we actually have an advisor on our board who actually was talking about a crow's nest on a ship. And
Mhm.
we began to think that sounds like a great name for a podcast because that's really what we're doing here at Threat Captain, right?
That's
We're a
it.
lookout post when it comes to cybersecurity sales, when it comes to thinking about cybersecurity risks from a business standpoint,
Yep.
and what our tool is actually helping MSPs do. And so we think it's a great tool, and we're going to really double down. Excuse me. We think it's a great name, and we're going to be doubling down on this crow,
That's right.
the crow's nest. So
I
I just want to
also,
start with that, dude.
yeah, I really also like the idea that a group of crows is called a murder of crows. So all the
Mm.
people who are going to fall in love with this podcast and with this incredible thing we're doing, they can be like our murder posse, or I don't know. There's just a lot to play with when it comes to crows. And I will show you my coffee cup. For those of you listening at home, this is the USS Constitution. This is the oldest battleship still in service, an old wooden one, and on the top it has three crow's nests.
Oh,
So yeah,
wow.
that's right. This is the kind of boat that a crow's nest would have been on, kind of ship that a crow's nest would have been on. So last time I was in Boston, I was crawling all over the thing, but it was in repair mode, so all the masts were down, so I didn't get to go play. But just crawling around on one of these ships of the line, and so yeah, you're going to get a lot of nautical themes here because one of the things we love is the idea of this whole blue ocean strategy. So if you haven't heard of blue ocean strategy, it's a great book. It talks about when you're doing sales and you're entering a market, it's easier to go where no one else is. It's easier to go where there's a blue ocean. Like all the competition, it makes it a red ocean, blood in the water. Blue ocean means no competition. And we believe that the MSP market is currently going into a blue ocean from a cybersecurity point of view. There are so many people who need cybersecurity. There are so many providers who can do it. The ones that actually can bring the solutions to that blue ocean, those are the people who are going to win. And let me throw some stats at you, Brad. The global economy is growing at 2%, 2 point something percent. The data analytics and vulnerability cybersecurity market is growing at 10%. So that's all the things that we use for discovery. And then managed cybersecurity services are growing at 14%. So managed cybersecurity services are growing at 7 times the speed of the global economy. That's ridiculous. So, that's the whole point. And why I think that we're jiving here is by helping people understand how to talk about cybersecurity, how to enter into conversations with customers around cybersecurity. Um, those companies, those MSPs that get good at sales and cybersecurity are going to actually get to take advantage of that incredible growth. And those who don't, that's okay. That's fine. You can stay where you're at. But I think if we're in business, we're all in business to do some good and make some money, and maybe not even in that order. But so I think it's important, right?
Yeah, Adam. So what I heard you just say is it is a really great time to be a managed service provider. And it
Yes.
is imperative that you level up when it comes to your cybersecurity game. And that doesn't just mean knowing the latest things going on in cyber,
That's right.
but if you really want to get across to your clients the importance, the risks, that not doing certain controls are gonna cost you in the long run or even in the short term.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's an extremely great time for an MSP to be focused in on what we're going to be talking about here on this podcast, and I'm really excited about it. And I hope that we can really deliver some value to these MSPs and what we're seeing and how we've used sales and cybersecurity to really build businesses, right? And at the end of the day, that's what all these MSPs are.
Yep.
They're business owners. They're building out their community as well, right? Of clients. And so one thing that I've found when you're in sales is you just got to go do it. I never learned really from my successes. I always learned from my failures. And I learned, oh, well, when I said it that way, that didn't resonate and that didn't work. And really getting building that muscle up. And so that's why I'm really excited about what we're doing and launching here at Crow's Nest on the podcast, because those are the type of things we're going to be talking about. And those are the type of guests that we're going to be bringing on to really help level up and equip the MSP to really start making cybersecurity something that they can just talk about like the
Yeah.
back of their hand, right?
Yeah. So let me brag about you for a little bit. So maybe for those of you listening, let's talk about why Brad and I have an authoritative voice that you should be listening to, right? Because any fool can start a podcast, but we actually have something to say, right? And so um, the superpower that Brad has that he's bringing to the table and why you need to listen to him is that he is absolutely obsessed with going from $0 in revenue to $1 million in revenue in cybersecurity.
I am
And
actually, yeah, that's true.
when you are starting this journey as an MSP to either start selling cyber, if you've never done it before, you need to pay attention. If you're looking to scale cybersecurity and you're stuck, you need to pay attention. And because everything that Brad does starts with establishing trust in the market and then getting people to be vulnerable enough with him so that he can do a product market fit. And if you've never seen an expert seller go from 0 to 1 million, you're missing out. It's fantastic. Yeah. So would you mind kind of like just talking a little bit about the whole process of going from 0 to 1 million? I know you're in the middle of writing a book with a whole bunch of really cool stuff, but if maybe you just take 5-10 minutes to just riff a little bit on what does it look like getting started and selling cybersecurity from 0.
Well, something I'm really love talking about, and it's something that, man, I wake up every day thinking about. And it took a lot of time and effort and learning lessons to really kind of get to where I am today. And there's still so much to learn, and there's still so much to level up on as things change and things evolve. But I think it really starts with being extremely disciplined and understanding that this is a long process. And when you're really trying to establish not only yourself, but your brand and your mission and what value you bring to the market, you really have to be able to tell the story of why you're doing what you're doing. And early on, I think that was what has been really important in some of the successes that we've had together. And it really comes down to, man, the tactics, I think is where I would start, because you got to understand what your calendar looks like. And it's a lot of cold calling, honestly. And I think a lot of people don't want to think about picking up the phone. And I've always been, let's pick up the phone first. And
That's right.
let's have a conversation first. And once you start having those conversations lead into, oh, well, there's an epiphany. Oh, well, there's something I just learned new about the market that now I can use in my next call. And so I think it's really building out early on the front line offense, right? Where you're really starting to put yourself out there. And I think a lot of people are just scared to start. And so I think that's where I found my muscle to flex. And it's just like, I believe in what we're doing. You got to believe in what you're doing.
Mhm.
But ultimately, man, Adam, it comes down to the tactics, the discipline, not afraid to pick up the phone and have a hard conversation, uh, not scared to look really stupid or whatever it may be. Whenever you're those first kind of anxiety feelings when you're starting something, but it really comes down to those things, in my opinion, in the very beginning, and it's just so much fun to me.
Yeah.
I just love that part of building a business is getting those early adopters, building the early momentum, seeing those first dollars hit the bank account, and begin to just build upon that, and then just grow your what am I trying to say? Grow that momentum into something that turns into a force that other people can get behind and join the team, but
Mm.
also um, those early adopters, those early customers begin to tell your story for you
Oh, that's
because they,
great.
they love what you're doing.
So you dropped so many bombs right there. I'm going to try to summarize it back to you how I think. I'm going to like stack rank in my head. You, I love the fact that you're saying story, right? And so the idea that you have to have a story that you believe in, and then you have to share that story with other people. And if you're getting it right, they'll tell your story on your behalf. If you're getting it wrong, they give you feedback and you fix your story. And the key part of this, people quit for two reasons. One, they're too scared to get started, or two, they don't give it enough time. And so this is a shout out to sales managers or VPs of sales or business owners who are trying to do this. It is not going to immediately happen. You're going to make a bunch of mistakes. And if you don't give your sellers who are doing this kind of prospecting enough time to collect objections, to modify the story, to figure out who the early adopters are, to find the pain points and the triggers, you're going to get this disillusion. So, I think for us, it can take, if I look about at our track record, Brad, I think it's something like between at least 3 months to lock in on an ideal client, vertical, and then another 3 months to actually figure out who our actual ideal client is. And now we're selling all along the way, but we aren't emotionally attached to the numbers. We don't take that as proof that that is our customer just because they wrote a check. There's a perfect customer out there. And to me, what you just outlined is the kind of the tactics to go and get it. Pick up the phone, call a bunch of people, practice your story. When you get your story right, they start telling the story for you.
Exactly. Yeah, that was a great summary. And then to kind of piggyback off what you just said, why everyone should be listening and taking Adam Anderson as an authority is, I mean, shoot,
Because I'm
Adam,
sexy. That's why.
well, and has the best beard, and no, but ultimately, when Adam and I first met during my MBA, and he was an entrepreneur in residence at the Clemson MBA program. Adam brings what is a very difficult subject in cybersecurity and really understands how to talk about it in a way that others can understand it very easily. And that is a hard thing to do when you're a nerd, you're a cybersecurity enthusiast, and you understand all the way things work and how to break down a computer on the hardware side, but on the software side, and all your experience in identity access management and building businesses is really something that people gravitate towards when they meet you because you have all these really unique skill sets that allow you to really understand and have empathy for not only the cybersecurity nerd or the IT nerd, as we call them, and we
Hmm.
kind of are ourselves too, right? And also the business owner and the C-suite, and you have massive experience working with boards and boards of directors, and you're a chairman of the board for goodness gracious sake.
Yeah.
And the fact that you can bring all those worlds together and then communicate it to all different types of parties that have different skill sets, et cetera, is something that I'm just always in awe of them. And so we get on meetings and we talk to our potential customers or we're talking to MSPs, it's always just so neat to watch you be able to kind of move in the different conversations in the different roles and really have empathy and understanding of all that. And so that's why when we always talk about when we started Threat Captain, and
Hmm.
it's one of the most important things that we both set out to do together, because we're really bringing some alignment, but we're using a lot of what you've learned over 25 plus years of being in the industry and doing all these things I just mentioned and putting it into a tool that MSPs can now use with your skill sets, right?
Yeah.
And kind of push the easy button and not go have to take 25 years to go learn all that, right? Or not have to go get cussed out on the cold calls like I have. And you can learn a lot from what we're building here at Threat Captain. And
Yeah.
um, so I just wanted to highlight that. So anything you'd add to that kind of about your experience to kind of tell the audience
Yeah.
how you come along.
So I appreciate that. You know, I've been in a lot of rooms, and what I've seen is I call it Luke Skywalker versus Yoda. A cybersecurity professional thinks sometimes that they're the hero of the story. They think they're Luke Skywalker, and they have to go in to these boardrooms and they have to convince people, or they have to tell their manager, and they have to, this is how you stay safe, and it's my responsibility. You begin to get traction in the world of cybersecurity when you realize that you're Yoda, you're not Luke. You're not the hero, you're the wise advisor. And the business or the organization is the hero. So when I began to start having real success crossing the gap between nerd talk and business talk is when I approach as an advisor who's curious and asks questions. And I actually care to learn how the business worked. Sometimes when you feel like it's my responsibility to reduce risk, well, then you're very focused on anything that's risky, but you don't have the transparency into the full system, how the business works to understand risk. And you never will until you establish a great deal of trust. So this is both for internal IT people as well as MSPs that are working with customers. The first thing that you have to do is be very curious about their business and then establish trust through creating safe communication, right? So what I'm very good at getting in front of people and establishing that thing of safety. What I found and why we started Threat Captain is that I don't scale very well, right? You can't putting me in front of only one person at a time. The great thing about Threat Captain is we were able to take the number one thing that established trust was to be able to talk about financial impact, to be able to speak the business's language. And I like to think of Threat Captain as a universal translator of risk, where a cybersecurity person can go and look at security controls and they can do all the things they're very comfortable with. And then they hit the simulation button and boom, it translates how they think about risk into how business people think about risk. And
Oh,
all of a sudden, everybody is having a better conversation. So I had a buddy, actually an uncle, amazing doctor. And eventually he became in charge of a hospital system. So at first he was a doctor, then he ran a practice, and I said, why did you keep moving farther and farther away from the patient? Why did you keep going all the way up to eventually he was running an insurance, he was running a hospital system. And he's like, well, I found that I could affect more patients the higher I went with the better systems I built. So if I can make sure that we negotiate hard against insurance so that people are able to get things paid, and I was able to save a lot more lives by building a system for people to operate in rather than focusing one at a time. And so I kind of feel like that's what you've encouraged me to do is it's not a bad thing to be significant in front of a group of people. But man, the idea that we can help hundreds of thousands of MSPs help millions of companies, you can't pass that up. That's pretty cool.
no, and it really it flows right into our mission, right? As
Hmm.
as business builders. I would say, I'm really curious about, because I know you did a talk in London
Mm-hmm.
town,
That's right. That's right.
and talk a little bit about first of all, I love the title, right? And just a
Right.
little bit about that, because I think it plays into, kind of piggybacks onto what you're just kind of talking about. But this talk that you gave in London, tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about
Yeah. So the title of the talk was the number one cybersecurity risk facing the world is the nerd's inability to write a business case.
that.
Right. So it isn't that we don't know how to solve these problems. It's a budget allocation problem. Right. So a nerd, and actually I'll give you a real world experience. This is where I really came to the conclusion that this was important. I was running a identity and access management environment for 450,000 users at a 9.5 million a year budget, and I needed another 800K to do an upgrade because our stuff was rolling off support. I needed to do a thing. So I need another 800K. So I go back and I try to get 800K. And they're like, "No, we'll go ahead and leave the thing. Don't worry about it." So I got turned down. So then I went and I found out, well, what are they actually spending money on? And at the time, this was a grocery store, a $70 billion holding company that owned a bunch of grocery stores, and they wanted to bring mobility into the grocery store. And so what I found is that they were going to spend a little over $1 billion to bring mobility and phone interfacing into the store. And I was like, oh, that's what they care about, making money. If I attach my $800,000 upgrade to enabling the business to do the thing that they want, now all of a sudden 800K is nothing because it's out of that other bucket of money. And
Mm,
so that was and by the way, I got the money because as soon as I said, oh, well, you can't do your initiative until I upgrade this to the next version, and then that unlocks your ability to do the thing. And they're like, oh, well, great, here's you go, boom, 800K. So that's when I realized if I don't get good at looking at how the business operates and talking about business case versus cyber, compliance, because compliance only takes you so far. But when you know what the business is doing and you know how security enables the business, and then you can write a business case that justify the spend, oh my gosh, they start inviting you to all the meetings because you're speaking their language, right? A cybersecurity professional often finds themselves standing alone at a Christmas party, right? They're not the most popular
mm.
cat. Um, unless you are business minded as well as cyber minded. And I'm not suggesting every single person do that. There's a real wheelhouse and there's something really special when all you do is focus on the technology. We really need people who do that. But you have to have some people in your organizations that bridge that gap. You have to have some people on your sales team, if you're an MSP, that can speak about cyber and about business, but lead with business problems and actually talk about solutions to problems rather than function and features of the product. Eventually, you need to talk about your function as features. And that's where the really obsessed nerd needs to get into the picture. There's always a role. But the problem that um, most of the industry faces is that we lead with the tech and we lead with the fear. We don't lead with the upside of the business value that we get to create with cyber. And to me, I feel like that's what if we could teach 10% of the MSPs out there how to sell 5% more cybersecurity services and managed services, and the ripple effect to the millions of companies that will get safer, will increase their security posture, all that kind of stuff. Woo, that's a good reason to get out of bed, baby. Saving the
Oh,
world.
man.
Saving the
Yeah,
world.
that sounds like something so worthy. Sounds like something we're trying to do.
Well, I mean, and that's why the world needs another podcast. The MSP
Right.
world needs this podcast
Yes.
because this is going to be a safe place for us to bring MSPs in. They're going to talk about what they're struggling with. We're going to be bringing experts in. They're going to be talking about ways of handling and overcoming these problems. We're going to be building case studies and sharing it. We'll be talking to super interesting people because, again, this is a complex problem. Cybercrime is a complex problem. There are complex solutions there to address those. And sales is all about marrying the complex solution to the complex problem with an exchange of money that lets everybody be successful and sustainable.
Mm.
And it's not a bad word. Sales is the most important part of cybersecurity from my point of view. Because if you don't get the intakes correctly and understand the problems and know what the business is trying to do, then none of your security solutions actually are mattering. That's a bit of a
Yeah.
strong statement.
Well, yeah. Well, I think there's a a negative standpoint when people think about sales, right? And because you've seen so many bad salespeople that have tarnished it to the point where you have a negative attitude about it.
Mm,
And those that really are disciplined and think about sales like cybersecurity skills will come to the top. They'll come to the top. And let's talk about the stat that we saw from Continuum and the service leadership report last year,
sure.
right? That we keep looking at and just like, oh my God, I can't believe this. But 17% of managed service providers feel confident in selling cybersecurity. 17%. So
Mm,
Adam, I'm no mathematician here, but that's 83% of the MSPs out there do not feel confident when it comes to selling and advising on cybersecurity.
hmm
And so that's another reason when we saw these stats, we're like, holy crap, dude, we should probably start a podcast because we can talk about some of this
That's
stuff.
right. That's
And
right.
when there's so many great people in our network and people that we know that can really assist us in guiding MSPs to think through how do I become a part of that 17%, and B, how can we as a community drive that 17% higher, right?
That's right. And how can we do it profitably? Let's not lose money while we grow, right? That's a myth that you have to burn cash to grow. No, it's not that you have to burn cash to grow. It's that if you do sales correctly, you are profitable while you grow. We don't have to be a trade-off. I want MSPs. I want that number to go from 17 to 20%. And I want that new 3% to be the most profitable MSPs that have ever been. Because if you do cyber right, you have such an upside. And yeah, that's what we're going to help with.
So we're going to talk a little EBITDA too. EBITDA.
EBITDA.
Okay.
Earnings before taxes, depreciation,
All
and
the
some
things.
other stuff.
Yeah, right, right. So great. Well, man, I'm really excited for this.
Yeah.
We gotta find our crow call. There it is. There it is. But I'm really excited. And then, another thing that Adam and I are really excited about that we're doing outside of all the other cool stuff at Threat Captain, we did write a book
That's
on
right.
cybersecurity sales for MSPs. And
That's right.
so a lot of what we'll be guiding some of these podcasts are individual chapters in that book.
hmm
Um, because we believe in community, it is a free Kindle version.
That's
So
right.
we'll start promoting that more and more, but that's something that will guide some of our conversations here, outside of the great guests that we're bringing on and the lineup that we have. But
That's right.
yeah,
Yeah, it is available in Kindle, but you want to buy the paperback, guys. Always be selling. This coffee ain't free. We got to pay for this coffee. Buy the book.
that's
We
right.
get we almost make like I think 83 cents in profit per paperback.
Hey,
Amazon's great, baby.
hey, man, we were just talking about it. You got to start at zero, and you just slowly, get your dopamine hits along the way as you grow.
That's right. That's right. This is real exciting. I think this is valuable stuff, man. I'm particularly excited about going through the different chapters of the books and bringing people in to talk about the different chapters. Because we really worked hard to keep it simple and straightforward about what do you need to do, what's different, why. If at the end of the book you are not convinced that number one, you can sell cybersecurity, number two, you should sell cybersecurity, and number three, the only thing standing between you and a hell of a lot of success is having the right tools and processes, well, then we did something wrong with the book. But we didn't. You're going to love it.
Yeah,
So,
you guys will get a lot of value from it, and we look forward to really drilling down
oh,
more
by,
about the book.
by the way, the name of the book, Cybersecurity Sales Mastery, a comprehensive guide for MSPs. Pretty straightforward. Pretty straightforward. Well, Brad,
Yeah, to
is this our wrapping
keep it
up?
simple. Yeah, this is wrapping up, man. This is great. I'm glad that we were able to come on and talk a little bit about what we're doing here
Hmm.
on the Crow's Nest and why we started this and what our missions are and why you should maybe listen and
Yeah,
what value we're going to actually provide. So, as always, dude, it's so great jamming out with you and getting on.
that's it. I don't know how we're going to end these podcasts, but I do want to just like or something like that. Oh, by the way, I'm now envisioning we have actors dressed as crows at every single, and as soon as you hand out a hat at our booth, the crows come and attack the people. Yeah, let's workshop. I don't think
Yeah,
that's an
we're
idea.
still figuring it out. Like, you just put it out there and you start learning on the fly. We're also going to be doing some live shows at ChannelCon next month
Yep,
in Atlanta, which I'm really pumped up about. We already got some great guests already scheduled to come in and chat with us. So
that's absolutely right. All right, Brad. Well, this has been a delight. Let's go crush it.
thank you, Adam. Talk soon.